So here we are, and I think, Marina, I'm ready to open the next session. New trends and reinventions that will change the industry forever and become the new normal. Hans just signs on, and my guests today are. Mark is there too. So Hans is sitting in Zoku. I can see you. He's back. Thanks for joining us from Los Angeles, as we spoke last night. I'm sure you're still there. Navneet Bali is coming on screen. Great to see you, Navneet, in good health, in good spirit, as always. Yeah. I think.
Very good spirit.
Yeah, and then we're waiting for Marloes also to join us. So today we're going to speak, as I said, we're going to talk about new trends and reinventions that will change the industry forever and become the new normal. So let me introduce, we have Hans Meyer, creator of Citizen M, the co-founder of Zoku, and a big innovator, disruptor, a thinker, and an experience-based researcher. How's that, Mark? How's that, Hans?
Sounds great, Dirk.
Yeah, there we have the fabulous Marloes Knippenberg, CEO of Kerten Hospitality, also a disruptor and an innovative entrepreneur, operating in a mixed-use space in which he was recently even awarded and has many rewards received as well as with the Hospitality Innovation Award. We have Mark Selawry, Senior Vice President of ACT.Global. Mark is focusing on sustainable disinfection. His specialization and his background is the hospitality industry. Previously worked for Hilton and for Radisson and in operations and in leisure. And Mark has developed a hospitality solution for premium purity that will come into this discussion as well as we come along. And last but not least, the great Navneet Bali. Navneet is founder and CEO of LyvInn. You will all have expected him to be chairman of Mining Hotel for since last week. That's past an ancient history. Navneet has created his new brand, a new urban village brand called LyvInn, and he'll certainly be sharing his thoughts on that. But not only that, he's also an innovator and a disruptor. So we have 4 disruptors and innovators on the phone and on this call. And this is the thing that binds my guests today. Forward thinkers can certainly have a track record in being right about changes in the past. So they've been visionaries and looking into the future. So a great setting for a wonderful panel this afternoon, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Before I'm going to ask everybody to tell 1 minute what's keeping them busy. We've split up this session into 4 parts because innovation and changes that will come upon us after this crisis is over will affect operational issues, financial issues, certainly behavioral issues, and innovation. But let's start with a quick 1 minute round. Hans, let me start with you. You're next to me on my screen. So how are you doing? And how's your business going?
Well, thank you, Dirk. Business is doing well. What shall I say? We're used to low 90s occupancy levels, and we're definitely at that point at the moment. But I'm extremely positive about what's ahead of us because there's a huge potential now to reinvent our business and ourselves, and love to share the views on that. So thanks a lot.
All right, good to hear, Mark. Are you surviving the industry, or are you living off the crisis, or are you living off the crisis?
Well, what can I say? I think any company that can involve themselves and provide a solution that is innovative and disruptive to answer the big question, what is it that we can do after this coronavirus is over to restore confidence? And we're right there with regards to our hygiene solutions. And therefore, I hate to say it, much as I, as a hotelier, have absolute sympathy with the tremendous impact that has been a result of this coronavirus pandemic. Our company has been thriving because we have unprecedented demand in something that can not only drive hygiene, but after this coronavirus is over, also be a leader in terms of delivering a healthier indoor and air environment overall. So yes, we've been busy and in a very good way.
Excellent, good to hear. Marloes, how are you doing? Where are you today?
I'm still at home, so it's I guess that's the good part of all of this. I don't think I've been home this much for the last 5 years, so I guess there's a positive to everything. I think we've been very busy consolidating the business, and we've been working very hard for the last 5 years to get, I guess, to this point. We're launching some new products. We're launching a new arm. We still have 4 openings coming up this year, which we're working hard on. We still have the full team. We were always set up pretty agile, and we had teams all over. So I guess this way of working has been our way of working for a while. It's just going slower, but I guess more consolidated. So it's a very interesting time.
Excellent to hear. I'm sure I'm going to have a few questions for you after that to prove your point. Navneet, how are you doing? You've had a turbulent last week, and certainly during this crisis, for you to sit at home, it must be a disaster for you, because you're always very active and always very forward running. So how have you been coping, and how has your last week been?
Yeah, well, it's been exciting. You mentioned that I've come into a new era, a new area where I've created a new brand called LyvInn. It's basically a brand which combines. It's for young people who want to stay for longer periods, working or for studying in urban cities. So it's like an urban village where they can live together, but also in a safe and trusted environment, where they can also work, if you like, from home, not in their rooms, but in a communal space. But in a sense, it's a brand for the time. So it creates a trust and a safe environment for them to work together or work in a sort of a collaborative way. But again, it's something where trust will become a very important thing. Safety will become an important factor. And trust in brands, I think, will be even more important. But I might just say something about my previous company, Meininger, which I was involved for 7 years. Fantastic business. While I was there, it was the highest profit per square meter in the industry. And it'll remain that way. It has a lot of challenges. But, now there are 30 hotels, there are 10 on the way, young, very bright team. They're facing these challenges. It's a very difficult time, but they'll come out of it as a very strong company again, because the foundation is very strong. But again, that's the past, not the future.
And how are they going to survive without a charismatic chairman like yourself?
Because they're strong people, and it's a strong brand. People have been there. The oldest employee in the company is 16 years there, head of our Berlin region. So Daniela, and so people like that, they're there for the last 15 years. I was there only for 7 years. The people who were there for 10, 15 years are still there. And they are all leading the teams out there. It's a tough time for them. Hotels are slowly open, and I'm very confident they'll become. It's a brand leader in its particular niche, and I'm sure it'll come out very strong. And perhaps with all the learnings with these, which you get from a experience like this, they'll also innovate and come out stronger. As I said, I'm very confident of that.
Good to hear. Well, the introductions have been made, and Hans, since you are the only one that appears to be in your working environment, I'm going to kick off with you on an operational question. Why do you think that Zoku is performing better? We had a discussion last week, so I'm going to ask you that question. Why do you think that Zoku performs better than the market? Can you share your vision on how Zoku adapts itself from where you were and where you're going to go?
I think the first reason is because we have a very distinguishing concept. I mean, many hotels are carbon copies of each other. And the only distinction between a lot of those hotels is basically the logo or the brand. And these hotels can only compete on location and price. The location cannot be changed, so they basically compete on price. We feel that we very much believe in differentiation. So that's why we created this new category in the industry, the hybrid between a home and an office. And we did it together with the target audience to really create more value at less cost at the same time. And this all gave us a kind of a specific position in the market. And that's why I think Zoku Amsterdam is very much successful. And that's why we're rolling out now internationally in Copenhagen, Vienna, and Paris. The second reason is that we are extremely flexible. And I feel in these times, it all drills down to how fast and easy you can adapt as a company. And last but not least, it's about culture. We've always been customer-centric, and what you currently see is that customers are never the same. We've always taken people as a starting point, so change is completely embedded in our company culture. If you look now how we see moving ahead, then we feel that first, I mean, in these kind of times of crisis, you start to reflect a little bit on who you are. And we've never been a company where you put heads in beds, but we always believed in connecting people and ideas. And especially in this period, we really see that's a great value today. I mean, people start to miss human connections. So that basically helped us to really enforce our vision. Second, we also feel that in the next few weeks, months, we need to adapt. We won the Radical Innovation Award. We won the Great Award from National Geographic. Forbes quoted us as one of the 25 coolest hotels, but it's all history. So you continuous need to reinvent yourselves. And third, our markets will change. So normally we've always been focused on the international business traveler, but the international business traveler is not here at the moment. And the cool thing is that we are perfectly positioned to serve different markets. So being the travel market, being the residential market, being even the office market. Over the last few weeks, we've learned that our product, given the Zoku loft, which is a hybrid between a home and an office, and given the fact that the bed is not the most dominant piece of furniture, but the table, and the bed can be hidden, that a lot of people are using the Zoku loft as a workspace during the day. And even companies who cannot allocate too many people in their normal offices, they now start to move to Zoku. So different markets that we can adapt our business model. And I think that's a true advantage. And last but not least, our products will change as well. Zoku always has been pretty rigid in ceiling heights and grid sizes, but we now developed a new product in order also to do hotel conversions, because I'm absolutely convinced there will be interesting projects coming up in the next few years. For example, hotels which are at the end of their life cycle.
I would second you in a heartbeat, Hans. I agree.
Sorry?
Opportunities will come up. I know that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's a great time to basically reinvent your business. And what I think the coolest thing is that everybody in our company from all different departments are working in multidisciplinary teams now to make that happen. So I'm very positive about the future.
Good. So this looks like you're transforming your current business, and I was going to switch to Marloes, but I'm now going to first switch to Navneet, because Navneet, your new concept looks quite similar to what Hans is doing.
I'm inspired by Hans, but there are differences. It's I call it LyvInn. I call it LyvInn because the combination of living for longer periods, up to 12 months, and it's targeted at students. Some people call it co-living. That means people who are living together, because I think there's a big trend in the world, and I've seen that with my own kids who are now 25, 26. They're not going to have the money to buy and pay deposits to buy and to create mortgages, and after they get their first job or their second job, at that level, and they all want rented accommodation. So they want rented accommodation. They don't want to pay much for the bedroom, but they also want to have communal areas where they can work. Now, again, in the context of what's happening today, they want to work in a safer place, but there's a lot of home working going on. So they want to sit in their room. Maybe in Hans's room, they can sit because it's a bigger room, right? But otherwise, you would like to go and work in a place where you have all the facilities for home working. But at the same time, you want a social atmosphere too. People are social animals. And therefore, if you can provide a sense of trust for them to be able to socialize in a communal setting, which is what they want to do, with all the stuff that's going on, that's very important. With that, we'll also have a combination of families coming in for short stays, 3 to 5 days, and all. So basically, the social areas will cater to both people who are coming for short stays as well as for longer stays up to 1 year. So it's a combination, and the real reason for that is, again, it's a hybrid format which makes use of space efficiently, and again, therefore, from an investor point of view, it creates more profit per square meter. And therefore, that's the essence of it. It's an efficient use of space, plus it satisfies a need, I think, which has to be met, which is for young people who want rented accommodation. That's the key to this.
Yeah, I understand. So Marloes, I switching over to you. I mean, we've heard both of them. Hans is targeted towards a broader public, and I think Navneet a little bit more towards younger people. And then you heard profit per square meter, to which Mr. Bali is the inventor of the profit per square meter business, for sure. WeWork was also a forerunner of that, and that doesn't work. The 7 the 7 square meters working space doesn't seem to be working today. But Marloes, you have a lot of experience. You've even created brands around this whole concept. What is your view on this, and what is your learning? As closing on this subject, do you see a permanent change in what Hans and Navneet have just described? Or do you think that the virus infection that is keeping it all in grip, is that a slowing effect, or is that an accelerating effect of these two trends?
I actually think it's an accelerating factor. So when we started 5 years ago, just with talking about mixed use, the question we always got was, okay, so you just stick 3 concepts in a building and job's done. I think now all of a sudden we're talking about an acceleration of the true meaning of mixed use. I think when we were starting to talk about ecosystems, it was a duty manager having a coffee with the neighbors, posting it on Instagram and talking about it, there's an ecosystem. All of a sudden, you have people in residences who cannot leave their house for 1 or 2 weeks. You have an empty hotel, but you have a residential building that's totally full. You have office space in the same building, which can no longer be used to its full maximum capacity at the same time. So all of a sudden, you start connecting everything together. I think from what we can see at the moment, I agree that people are social animals, but if you look at the younger generation, I think their idea of social happens on their phone. Their idea of social is not necessarily touching, feeling, etc. I think there will be much more cocooning, and I think hotels or service departments or any of these environments are going to be seen more as a cocoon. And I actually think there will be many more industry collaborations, if that's even the connection between a hotel and an office, that were specialist buildings or real estate that had just one purpose for, was it a working clientele or a short-term clientele or anything like that. Retail, I think we've been talking for months and months that is retail dying. I can still see the headlines everywhere. If people are going to travel again, how many people will want to make an appointment to go to a shopping mall to buy something? So retail will probably come into our industry, and you start providing these, specialized or chosen, selected experiences for people. And I think, one size fits all for everybody. I think this is the part that goes away. But I think these changes were already happening. I mean, Hans came up with Zoku not just 3 months ago when, the whole world started changing. I think it's the co-working or the WeWork was a specialist concept in one building for one kind of target audience. And I think there was no collaboration between people in residential units, etc. And I think that's also why I can still say we got 2 contracts 4 weeks ago, and we just got another 2 that we're starting negotiating today. All of a sudden, people are looking for a different type of operator and different services. And I think this is where the industry is going.
But if you talk about people, then what is the main driver to that change? What is the one main driver that makes you so successful in what you do, all 3 of you? Well, yeah.
Flexibility, agility. I think it's the constant adaptation. I think the old-fashioned way was, you need brand recognition, i.e. the breakfast always has to be the same, the sheets, the bed linen, the mattress always has to be the same. I think as people started traveling more and they wanted to have experiences, I think flexible brands all of a sudden had a greater opportunity. And secondly, the big brands were so hotel focused and distribution channel focused. I think Booking.com and Expedia for small and mid-size companies have created a great opportunity, whatever you want to say about commissions, business model, ethics, and anything else. But from positioning the smaller guys on the distribution map, I think all of a sudden everybody had a fairly fair chance.
Yeah. So concluding is that mixed use and this experience based is an accelerator. And COVID-19 is an accelerator to make these new concepts and blended concepts happen. Is that a true?
Go for it, sir, Hans.
No, sorry. It also depends. Okay, you can look into traditional multi-use buildings. I think the interesting part is using every square meter in the most efficient way. And then it's interesting to look, are you able to stack different business models onto each other using the same square meter? So at some point, every hotel has a certain lobby, but we stacked a co-working concept on that lobby, creating an additional revenue and an additional profit stream. And it's very much interesting to look at different combinations you can make with during different moments of the week or the day. At the end, it drills down to what also Airbnb and what Uber is doing. They are always focused on using unused capacity. And that's the way how we at Zoku approach square meters. How can we generate more revenue on the same square meter? And that's why we can now sell during the day the same room for somebody who needs to work. That person is leaving that room at 5 o'clock, and in the evening we can even host a guest over there. So it's basically double occupancy of the same square meter, and that makes it very interesting, I think. And that's really the crisis is really a catalyst for that, because it made working from home a kind of a normal thing. And then you got opportunities that you have your home office away from the home office in hotels like Zoku.
But there's one condition to that. And Mark, I'm going to switch over to you. If we're all looking at higher revenues and higher profitability per square meter and more optimal usage of those same square meters, in the current situation, we have a problem with that bloody virus that is keeping us at home, and also when we go back to work and back to hotels and our industry starts restarting again, we can talk about mouth caps, we can talk about heat sensors indoors to make sure that contaminated people don't come in. But the sanitation part, Mark, is a precondition basically for hotels to be able to operate successfully, but also for mixed use situations. What is the invention that you're working your respectable butt off for at the moment?
Right. What ACT.Global offer is a two-pronged solution. One is on producing sustainable and sustained disinfection that works on the background by coating surfaces with a layer of light-activated titanium dioxide, which basically creates a protection against all form of pathogenic nasties, not just coronavirus, but also mold, for example, that causes odors, foodborne cross-contamination, etc. So as long as the light is shining and it has access to oxygen and humidity, we create what are called self-disinfecting surfaces. And as the air crosses the surface, those same negative ions take the pathogens away from the air. The second solution is a daily cleaning fluid, which is completely non-toxic, that is used to disinfect. It can be fogged, it can be applied to the surfaces, but that in essence replaces a lot of other toxic chemicals that are oftentimes used, and is very friendly with the hygiene staff, the housekeepers, for example. They don't have to wear protective equipment, and as well leaves no toxic residue while providing hospital-grade disinfection. I think there's a lot of focus right now on this concept of restoring confidence. We too sell our solution on a square meter basis, and whether or not it's multiple use square meters or single purpose use, at the end of the day, part of restoring confidence will be for both guests and staff to have a feeling of comfort that once this coronavirus is over and once social distancing is removed, will my resuming normal life, quote unquote, as normal as it could be afterwards, by repopulating spaces, potentially result in wave 2, as Wesley Paul had mentioned, in wave 3 of coronavirus. So I think that focusing on hygiene, regardless of space, is going to be a critical component in helping speed up the recovery, because it will be restoring confidence as that key principle in the travelers, that there is a measure and level of protection that allow them to conduct business as previously.
So this is obviously great. Mentioning restoring confidence is something that Wesley Paul earlier in discussion with Stephen Zucker was also referring to. Is that confidence level? People need to be confident to go back into aircraft. They need to be sure that they won't get infected. Similar with hotels and with buses, public transport, you name it. And certainly also with hostels where density and sharing rooms is incredibly important. Hans and Navneet, do you see this solution that Mark's company has as a must and as a pretext for or as a precondition basically for the changes you are envisioning?
See, I think, if I may go ahead, the idea of having safety and health, every big brand, whether it's Hilton, we heard about it earlier, Hilton, Marriott, Accor, they're all coming out with ideas because they want to show that the big brand is a safe place to go to. I think this will become the new norm. Everybody will be doing safety and health. When, for example, in the case of Meininger, when it came as a hostel business, it was a hybrid, really. And therefore, the one thing about it was that it created it was the best hostel in town, which is also a very good budget hotel. But the key to that was that it gave potentially a brand where there was a lot of health and safety for a person going to a hostel, as against the kind of hostels that used to be there. So health and safety is always an important factor at any end of the market. So I think it'll become the new norm, where everybody will have to use these kind of procedures that Mark is talking about, or something like that, to give people that feeling of protection. And even after the virus goes away, let's say 5 years, and people forget about this, there will be some lasting impact where people will stress on safety and health. And I think every brand, but it'll become a new norm. Everybody will be doing that. I don't think it'll be a differentiator ultimately. Everybody will step up the game. But it's important everybody does that, so the traveler as a whole feels more confident, whether it's the airlines, which will be doing that at the airport or within their own airlines, as well as the hotels. I don't think it'll be a differentiator in the end, but everybody has to do that. That's what I think.
Yeah, but we're moving on a little bit in pace on our topics, and let's try and keep the answers as short as possible so we can work on a bit of a listen. I'm sure there's a lot more questions from the audience as well. So, guys, an operational question for all of you. MICE business, what's going to happen? Is it going to come back, or is it going to change forever?
I think it will come back, but it will take some time, and it's basically in line with Navneet, what Navneet was also and Mark was also telling. I mean, it really depends on how safe do people feel, not only in hotels, but in the entire vertical when they are traveling. And I think it will come back, but I don't think it will be as big as it used to be, given all the digital tools that we have now, and that people are really still getting used to it pretty fast. So there will be events, there will be bigger meetings, but it will definitely pick up slow.
Marloes, how does that fit into your concept and thinking?
I took out the entire meeting floor already 2 years ago, and the project we're just opening doesn't have an actual meeting space at that sense anymore. It's convertible space that can be used for anything from sports to culinary, with barely any back of house areas that can almost be used 16 hours of the day. But I think there's a generation difference here as well. If you look, and I think there's also a big difference between East and West. So if you go to cultures where big weddings are still, a key point, I think people can't wait to all get together and actually celebrate. I think when you look at the modern way of doing concerts, the first online concerts have taken place already last year, and they were the big hit. So I think from that perspective, I think there's a shift in general of how people will want to spend their time together. But if you look at occupancies of meeting floors or event spaces, unless you have something so significant, occupancies were always running between 30 and 40%, or at least for the last couple of years. So if I take the per square meter model which is exactly what we based it on, is how do you use something for social as well as for business, and how do you apply that to everybody, and how do you remain relevant? And it comes back to, if you have a residential component together with a hotel component, your meeting space or your event space becomes pretty much the breakout area for somebody who sits in a home office and doesn't want to watch the kids for a moment, or needs to meet somebody and, you know, get into their normal clothes and go for a different environment. I think those social engagements will be very different.
Yeah, agreed. Look, we need to start moving towards closure, so I'm going to make a quick round with all four of you. Mark, starting with you. Obviously, you're working on a biochemical solution. Do you think technology will also come into play to make sure that we restore confidence to travelers, just like after 9/11, we all of a sudden had the body detectors coming? What will be the main change you think to get back into hotels and aircraft?
Well, there are a lot of technological innovations that span not just digital technology, but also, of course, the actual fight against specific pathogens. Yes, of course, I think technology will be quite instrumental in restoring confidence. I think there will be an era where we move beyond the idea of, as Navneet had said, hygiene will become a hygiene factor. I think what will be a differentiating factor is to be able to move from just the hygiene perspective on health and the overall delivery of health. For example, by way of case study, the Post Ranch Inn, which is a 5-star boutique hotel located in Big Sur, California, is adopting our technology, of course, to help restore confidence, and that when their well-heeled guests re-enter the hotels, they'll be protected. But they're also using it to knock out the volatile organic compounds and common pollutants in the air. So this, you know, for MICE as well, is going to become a differentiating factor. Can I go to a hotel environment and leave healthier than, in fact, what my own home environment, where I've been sequestered and quarantined? That would be a real competitive offering, in my opinion.
All right, good to hear. And Navneet, I was going to ask you a couple more financial related questions. I can't do that because of time, so I'm going to combine all these questions in one. Do you foresee any of these asset-light companies like Meininger also was? Do you foresee trouble, or do you foresee a future ahead of asset-light companies?
I think the thing about Meininger, for example, it was a very efficient model with low operating leverage, and therefore it can operate probably at 30% occupancy and make money. And that's what I mean by being lean and efficient and a model. Of course, it will hope to go back to its 90% occupancies, which it enjoyed for the last 6-7 years. Yeah. But even at 30%, I know we could break even. Okay. So perhaps even with this experience, it'll become even more efficient. But the key to that is the hybrid model. And the other thing I should impact is also the kind of source of business. If you have a long-term business mixed with transient, that gives a source of comfort to investors and to your business modeling, so you can leverage on it and yield better. And that's the essence of LyvInn as well, combining long stays with short stay. That's also the hybrid model.
Good stuff. Guys, we're out of time. Marloes, thank you so much for your insights. Hans, great to hear. Mark, phenomenal, great to join us from LA. And Navneet, all the best, and let's speak soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good